in the early years, we had kind of traditional roles. That's not right for everybody, but our roles were I was going to go out and conquer the world and earn the income, and you were going to stay home with the family. And we lived that way. And to some degree, we fell into roles and responsibilities, right? And we patterns, right, that worked in that season to some degree and didn't work to some degree. But now that we've traveled so many journeys together, we've been lost more than once. We will undoubtedly get lost again.
But it really leads to a little bit of conversation about communication, right? And so there is this playfulness about Kevin and a very serious deepness about me that can lead to a lot of conflict in conversation.
And I can say, oh, I'm sorry. Again, I made a mistake. And even though my, little boy Kevin would say, let's go have come on, I respect because I'm with you and I want you to have fun too. And if I'm having fun and you're not, it really isn't a very great trip. And the same way. So we have to kind of navigate that. Let's not go to how we pick movies. That's another whole issue.
Yeah, I have a really funny story about that. So we were driving in Germany, I think, going over the mountains. And I like to know where I am all the time. So we had a goal to go to this other village across the mountains. And Kevin didn't have a map. And I lost my mind, like literally lost my mind. I was like, I wasn't yelling, but I was really annoyed. And because his how is so different than my how. My how is we have a map, we know where we're going, we know where we're going to stop, and then we stop there. And then we go and we find another goal. I'm very, very concrete. And Kevin's like, it'll be great, it'll be grand. It was not grand. And the point of this story is that Kevin wasn't aware how deeply my personal childhood story fed into all of that, like little bit of rumbling anxiety. And then it really spilled out into an irritation. And that really speaks to what, we're talking about today. Am I aware of my partner's story, right? It all worked out in the end. We had a great lunch. We had a fabulous trip once I relaxed and realized I was perfectly fine. But my story, my original, childhood story is not a comfortable one and not one that leads me to being open when I'm lost. It really is a problem. But Kevin had to learn and grow in that awareness of my story, right? First of all, I had to share it. I had to be willing to be open. And then he had to receive it like, oh, just get over it. That's not the answer always. And so there's this deep respect that you have to start with day one for each other. Like I come from a childhood of a little bit of trauma and Kevin doesn't. And so right there, we're on two different paths, right? But over 36 and a half years, we've learned, okay, this is what happens when you do this, and this is what happens. And that's that awareness and that deep connection and respect that says, hey, I know you want to know where we are, so let me pull out the GPS. Let me grab the directions, right?
I'm like, hey, what's it? We'll just have fun. We're in the mountains. We're in the Alps. Who cares where we go? We'll get there eventually. We got hours. Like if we're for a little detour, it doesn't matter, right? And that was my perspective. But the issue is that was bringing back something. And I'm clueless, right? So until I know your story, until you let me know, and so my initial reaction was like, yeah, what's the big deal? Come on, I'll get us there. But it went much deeper than that. So a lot of growing in intimacy, a lot of growing together is really knowing the whole story. I think this idea of knowing is really that. And until you've lived with somebody for many years and told the story, and here we are married, whatever that was, 30-something years, right? And then I learned something new. I mean, for being married to somebody and knowing you constantly confuse me and constantly baffle me. And I'm like, what? How did I not know that? And I think that's part of the fun and the joy of marriage.
One thing that's so critical is not being critical, right? Is not over analyzing and criticizing and cutting down another person. Always maybe just commenting about things, but never asking and encouraging the other, right? I think it's so important that we can get stuck in day-to-day things without really encouraging one another. How are you? What's happening for you? Those are really important things in a marriage that can just kind of get very drowned out in the distractions of our phones or the busyness of life, whatever it is. You have to decide that you're going to communicate on a deeper level, right? And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and obviously, I would just say to our audience that we're talking any relationships, any deeply committed relationships. So whether you're married or not, or thinking about it, or whatever your circumstances are, we respect there's a lot of different ways to do it. But we've got two individual people who are very independent. And what we want and what I think is best is two ideally healthy people, right? Now, we're going to have times when we're not healthy, literally sick and emotionally struggling or whatever. But the goal, if my goal is to always care for and build up Diane, you, and you're for me, and I think sometimes we forget that. We feel like we're competing. But we say we're actually for each other, and we orient our mind and our actions that way, it's better. Yet we're still enormously selfish in our human nature. We have our own needs, which we want and need to get met, right, at some level. And it's navigating that with the unique personalities that each couple has. I mean, you and I are very different, and as I think many successful couples are. I think that's because we actually balance each other if we don't kill each other, right?
That's right. It's so true.
And if you want to learn more about what we're about, go to theinspiredroad.com and click on the Inspired Marriage link. And there you can see additional resources and even an opportunity to sign up for one of our seminars and retreats.
Thanks for joining us.
Have a great day.